So hopefully you had a few minutes there to listen to Reader Paul and what he was saying on Insightful. Insightful is so much more than just knowledge. It's the ability to truly and deeply know something or someone. So the reason I wanted to do worship this morning out in nature was to think about how we can develop insight into the world around us. And nature can tell us so much about the world. And for Christians, for example, being out in nature tells us so much about God's creation. So what I want to do is challenge you this week to get outside in nature, look at the world around you and think about how you can develop insight into the world. Okay, the world is a lot bigger than Lewisham, it's a lot bigger than Trinity School, and it's important you take the opportunity to go out and see it for yourselves. So many things can help us develop insight. People can help, friends can help, God can help, music can help. Dave's performance at the Brit Awards last year, for example, gives a great insight into his passions, things that are important to him, his community, and his world vision. And it's important that you take the time to develop insight into yourself and to others. And especially during this difficult time, it's important to think, are you developing insight into yourself? Are you developing it into your friends and family? Think about next week, for example, you're coming back to school and it's going to be really difficult for some people. How can you develop an insight into how they are thinking and feeling so that you are able to support them and help them during this time? And we will never know if others need support and help if we don't take the time to stop, to listen and to support. And for Christians, this is where the Bible is really, really important, because the Bible gives Christians an insight into the life of Jesus, into the sort of who he was, what he did, why he did what he did. And Lent is a perfect opportunity to reflect on this. In Matthew, for example, there's 3 temptations recorded in the Gospel that gave an insight into Jesus and the issues that he had to wrestle with whilst 40 days in the wilderness. The first one, for example, was when Jesus was faced with a dilemma about how to use his power, whether to use it for selfish reasons, okay, or actually whether to use his reason to help others. And Jesus denied himself the opportunity to satisfy his hunger during those 40 days, even though he had been fasting. And this is just one of 3 examples of temptations that can really help us think about and reflect what Jesus went through during that time. We don't have to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. Christians don't do that, but Christians do, as we spoke last week, try and give something up during that Lenten time. The third example I'm going to give you here is of the third temptation. Okay, and this temptation tested Jesus' devotion to God and also his desire for political power. However, Jesus showed that his idea of being a Messiah was not one who had this political power that the devil was trying to tempt him into, but actually his desire and his focus as a Messiah as one of putting God's kingdom first. And I think it's really important that this shows a lot about who Jesus was, his nature, but also more than that, his insight into him. And what we can learn from that is each and every one of us is thinking about others, putting others before ourselves. And I want you to now take a minute during mindfulness to reflect and think, okay, yes, we're returning next week. Some people are a little bit nervous. Some people, like myself, are very excited to come back in. It's going to be brilliant. But actually, what's really important is we reflect on what we've been through and we start loving, we start listening, and we start developing an insight into people around us. You do not know what the person next to you has gone through during COVID, during lockdown. Something positive might have happened, something negative might have happened. You don't know that. And I don't know that if I don't listen, and neither will you. So what I want to encourage you to do is to listen, to talk, to communicate with friends, with family, with people in your year group when we come back, and really think about, what do you know about the person next to you? What do you know about your neighbour? One of the most important messages in the Bible is to love one another. Think about how you can love one another, how you can love your neighbour, develop an insight into them and who they are so you can support them. So I'm going to pause the video now, and for 1 minute I want you to think and reflect. Hopefully during that minute of mindfulness you were able to reflect on nature, to reflect on how you can develop an insight. As I said earlier, it might be you developing an insight into yourself, who you truly are, and you're taking this opportunity whilst at home to think about what your goals are, what your aspirations are, what your desires are. It might be that you're spending the time thinking about the insight into others, how you can support other people, how you could be that rock for other people, listening to other people. And what I want you to really remember is get out in nature this week, okay? Get into that challenge I said. Do that challenge, complete that challenge, And hopefully, or you might not be able to, but you might be able to hear some of the birds in the background this morning as I'm doing the worship. And actually it's a reminder that nature is right with us all the time. No matter what we're going through, it's something we can all enjoy. So take the time to get out, enjoy the nature, and involve yourself in the world around you. So to bring to a close and finish our worship this morning, I want you to bring your thoughts and your prayers together to the Father Almighty, and I want you to take this time to think, reflect, and say thank you to God. Thank you to God for giving you an insight into the world around you. Thank you for giving an insight into Jesus through the Bible and Scripture. And for those of you who are sat there thinking, I don't have a faith, Miss Alder, how can I develop insight? Then what you can do is think about what gives you insight. Is it parents? Is it family? Is it tradition? What is it that gives you insight? And whatever it is, hold on to it for as long as you possibly can. And remember, talk, listen, and love those around you. Have a brilliant week. Remember, if you have any nominations for badges, get them into me as quick as possible so I can send them out. And the faith team, as normal, will be this Wednesday at 8:45 in the morning. If you need any support whatsoever, please get in touch with myself on WeDuck, or Rita Paul on WeDuck, or if you're in the faith team, you can do it on our post page, or speak to your family group leader who will get in touch with us. But you're not on your own. Develop that insight. Be courageous during this time. Don't forget, we don't ignore all the other characteristics when we're focusing on a new one. They all make you who you are. Thank you very much, and enjoy this week's worship. Morning everyone, welcome to today's worship. As you can tell, it's a little bit different. I wanted to be outside in nature to do this week's worship. It's our second week thinking of our new characteristic, which is being insightful. And I'm going to start by handing over to Reader Paul, who will share his thought on what insightful means.